Greetings for the day. I, Shifa Taj, pursuing PharmD at Sardavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, Karnataka, India, is pleased to give a presentation on the topic entitled as Analytical Method to Determine the Efficacy of Generic versus Branded Formulation of Metformin Hydrochloride. The faculty supervisor for this project is Dr. Jinesh B. Nagavi sir, Head and Associate Professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Sardavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, Karnataka, India. We are thankful to Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bengaluru, Karnataka, India for funding this research. We would extend our gratitude to our beloved principal and teaching staff for motivation and encouragement. We would also like to thank the organizers for this insightful conference. Thank you. So the objectives of the study were as follows. The first objective was to develop and validate analytical method to compare the efficacy of generic versus branded counterpart analogues of metformin hydrochloride. The next objective was to promote educational interventions that are aimed at enhancing patients' and providers' confidence in the ability of generic medicines to manage chronic diseases. As we all know that diabetes mellitus is a chronic array of metabolic illness that results in abnormal high concentrations of glucose in the blood. Diabetes mellitus is attributed to one among a non-communicable disease causing mortality of 1.6 million people. It is also an expensive disease and implies economic burden on healthcare system, attributing it to a priority health concern. Metformin is a biguanide class of oral hypoglycemic drug widely used in the treatment of diabetes mellitus. The complexity of increasing prescription drug costs directly imparts adverse health sequelae by reducing adherence to significant medications. Brand name drugs are among chief drivers of raising drug costs. They are marketed at high prices during a phase of patent conservation and marketed restrictively after the approval by the Food and Drug Administration. On the other hand, generic drugs are chemically similar to their brand name analogues but may vary in the excipients incorporated such as pill color or form, inert binders and fillers, and manufacturing process. Methodology. The methodology is as follows. It involves the following steps. They are: first step, selection of mobile phase. The second step, preparation of stock and standard solution. The third step, preparation of calibration curve. The fourth step, injecting the sample solution and recording the chromatogram peaks. And the last step, analyzing the sample for their compositions. The instrument specifications were as follows. The instrument used was high performance liquid chromatograph, Shimadzu LC1080. Injector incorporated was Riordan. The column used was OD5200 C18 microbonda pack column. Detector used was SPD10A. Wavelength was 245 nanometers. Flow rate was 1 to 1.2 ml per minute. Injection volume was 20 microliter and mobile phase was acetonitrile 0.05 molar phosphate buffer with a pH of 2.5. Results and discussion. A simple, accurate and sensitive method was developed and validated for metformin hydrochloride in both generic and branded formulation. The chromatograms for both the formulations are depicted in the figures. We can analyze that the concentration of active ingredients is relatively higher in the generic formulation when compared with branded analog. This can be calculated by analyzing the area under the curve and also by determining the peak heights. Conclusion. A novel, simple, sensitive, rapid, precise analytical method was developed and validated for estimating the efficacy of generic and branded formulation of metformin hydrochloride. Our obtained results indicated that generic metformin showed higher concentration of active ingredient when compared to branded metformin. Thus, we conclude that generic medications are effective in terms of efficacy and safety profiles. Therefore, they can serve as bioequivalents similar to branded medications. As a consequence, they have the potential to significantly reduce the out-of-pocket medication expenses for patients and hence effectively contribute to medication adherence. Thank you.
My name is RSS. I am presenting the work on integration of structure-based and ligand-based approaches augmented with ensemble docking, which identified promising CDK2 inhibitors. Introduction: the cyclin-dependent kinases are large family of protein kinases which are indispensable to cell cycle and normal functioning of cell. Being specific among many forms of CDK2, the isoform of CDK2 plays a crucial role in transition of cell cycle from G1 to S and S to G2 phase. Overexpression of CDK2 regulatory subunits like cyclin A or cyclin E results into several types of cancers such as skin, cervical and small cell lung cancer. Thus, CDK2 inhibitors are of tremendous value in management of these cancers. Few CDK2 inhibitors such as dinaciclib, roniciclib and miliciclib have been approved for use in these cancers. However, their selectivity, resistance, off-target side effects are the major issues. Currently, there are more than 500 crystal structures of CDK2 available. Recently, the specific design of purine-based CDK2 inhibitors led to discovery of pyrazolopyrimidine inhibitors. One of the inhibitors being dinaciclib having IC50 value in the range 3 nanomole. On these lines, the current work explores the available crystal structures of CDK2 and also reported known ligands to identify new CDK2 inhibitors. Therefore, the objectives of the work are to perform docking of reported inhibitors at the binding site of good resolution crystal structures of CDK2 to align the best binding poses of inhibitors to the template of most active ligand to generate and validate the 3D QSAR model to filter and perform docking of a large database that is e-molecule database and to align these e-molecule compounds to previously aligned set and also predict the activity using developed 3D QSAR model. Material and methods. We carried out the docking with AutoDock Vina by using multiple ligand and multiple proteins. Thus, it is a one kind of ensemble docking. We used Chimera to align the protein structure and used Tinker for optimizing the protein structure. Then we also used Babel program to generate 3D conformers and to generate Vina specific files. Then we developed 3D QSAR model based on the Open 3D QSAR program. We then distributed 106 inhibitors into training set and test set, that is in the ratio of 75 is to 25% distribution. We then built 3D QSAR model based on PLS regression. We also used RDKit to filter the e-molecule database. The filtered molecules were aligned using Chimera program and the activity was predicted using developed 3D QSAR model. Results and discussion. The best docked poses of aligned molecules were used to build the 3D QSAR model and was validated. The PLS regression of 3D QSAR model has R square of 0.85, Q square of 0.61 and a predicted R square of 0.51, which is within the acceptable limits. The e-molecule database of more than 20.5 million compounds was filtered and the filtering was done on the basis of Tanimoto similarity and Morgan fingerprint. This yielded 4011 compounds. Further, all these compounds were redocked into CDK2 binding sites and the best binding poses were aligned to previously aligned CDK2 inhibitors. The activity of the aligned e-molecule compounds was predicted through 3D QSAR model. The predicted pKi was found to be 8.31, which corresponds to IC50 of 7 nanomole. Thus, this is a new scaffold of a compound in which the top hit contains furan and isoxazole ring. It is found that this molecule forms many key interactions at the binding site of CDK2 through the nitrogen of secondary amino group, nitrogen of oxazole ring, nitrogen of pyridine ring, and oxygen of furan ring. The figure shows the steric and electrostatic molecular interaction fields around most active compound. The hit compound fulfills all these favorable steric and electrostatic fields. Coming to the conclusion, by integrating the structure-based and ligand-based approach together with ensemble docking, we successfully identified the promising and novel CDK2 inhibitors. Thank you.
Myself, Elizabeth Rachel James from 2nd PharmD, Nirmala College of Pharmacy, Muatuvara, Kerala, India. My topic for this poster presentation is the roles and intervention of pharmacists in COVID-19 pandemic. Moving on to the introduction part. Coronavirus disease is an infectious disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2. The coronavirus is a group of viruses that cause respiratory illness. And this disease is primarily spreading through droplets of saliva or secretions from nose. Most of the COVID-19 infected people suffer mild to moderate respiratory illness. The World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a pandemic disease on 11th of March 2020. The first wave of pandemic hit a lot of countries badly and many patients died due to COVID-19. During the second wave, more higher is the number of infection and more patients were in ICUs, and in some countries higher is the death rate. Health professionals are on the front line fighting against COVID-19. They ensure that the people have access to health services. Being healthcare professionals, pharmacists are also working in front lines during this pandemic, acting directly with the community, continuing to care for patients with chronic diseases, working in hospital pharmacy, and providing pharmaceutical care to COVID-19 patients. The main objective of this poster presentation is to identify and describe the elemental or core services that is provided by the pharmacist during COVID-19 pandemic. Moving on to the materials and methods. Published data are collected from Google Scholar, Frontier, and other organizations and were reviewed to provide a summary of key roles and responsibilities of pharmacists during COVID-19. Pharmacists have responded brilliantly and efficiently for public health. Moving on to the results and discussion. The findings showed the different roles of pharmacists during COVID-19 pandemic in different workplaces such as in community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, industrial pharmacy, and drug regulatory and administrative field. And their intervention in community pharmacy include disease education and counseling, education on hand and respiratory hygiene, encouraging social and physical distancing, provision of facial mask and education, bursting the myths and neutralizing the misleading narratives, telepharmacy services, medication and disease management, pharmacovigilance at community level, active surveillance of suspicious cases, etc. And their intervention in hospital pharmacy include inventory management, pharmacovigilance at hospital level, provision of authentic and updated research information, disinfection and sterilization services, development of clinical guidelines and treatment algorithms, etc. and provision of personal protective equipments, etc. And their intervention in drug regulatory pharmacies include adequate drug supply, ensuring good selling practices, ease operative barriers, occasional quality testing through drug testing laboratories, etc. And in intervention in industrial pharmacy, monitoring of reported adverse drug reaction, urgency to comply with legal requirements, and to be the member of COVID-19 research and development, and to improve the access to medicines. From these findings, we can conclude that across all the healthcare profession, advanced and adaptive methods are practiced during this crisis. The activities of pharmacists during the COVID-19 pandemic widely differ from those that is described in previous pandemics, and the pharmacists were primarily engaged in vaccination and disease education. The COVID-19 pandemic have given more responsibility to pharmacists due to the disease severity, its rapid spreading, associated morbidity and mortality, misleading narratives, lack of vaccines or a specific drug, lack of treatment guidelines, and overwhelmed healthcare system. The listed references were taken to make this presentation. And special thanks to Dr. Padmanabhan R for the assistance in concocting this presentation.
Hi everyone, I am Sulaiman Al-Homeimi. I am a student in Nizwa University. I am the last year on School of Pharmacy, College of Pharmacy and Nursing. I did the graduation project about the assessment of polypharmacy in geriatric patient prescriptions and or at the tertiary care setting in Sultanate of Oman. As you know, the polypharmacy, which is the number of medication is more than 5 on the prescription, which we call polypharmacy. We conducted our study on 200 prescription patients. patient prescription, and our objective to assess the polypharmacy on hospitalized elderly patient on the tertiary healthcare setting. And our objective actually to assist and also compare the frequency of the polypharmacy in geriatric prescriptions on the outpatient pharmacy, and also evaluate the type of disease conditions and medication commonly occur on the cost burden in polypharmacy prescriptions. Our study is a prospective observational study, and was conducted, as we said, on the tertiary hospital on 200 prescription of the geriatric patient aged above the 65 years old and who have the more than 5 medication. We take the approval. We took the approval from the authorities from Nizwa University and also from the tertiary hospital. And our result, we found that from 200 prescription, there are around 61% of female prescription, around 121 prescriptions belonging to the female, and around 39%, around 79 prescription out of 200 prescription is for the male geriatric patient. This result is similar to one of the study conducted in Brazil, and also they mentioned that the number of polypharmacy in female prescription is more than in male prescription, as also mentioned in our poster here. Also, the around 38% from the out of 200 prescription, and the age range is between 65 to 69 receive higher polypharmacy, which is more than 12 medication in their prescription. And also we found that 31% of the prescriptions come from the or have the problem, cardiology problems, and also endocrinology issue, around 21%. And also the most common geriatric ailments is around 72.5, around 145 was hypertension, and 62.5 received medication for the hyperlipidemia or hyperlipidemic medication. And we know that the cost of the cancer medication, it was the high cost medication on the prescription, and then become the cardiology prescription, and the average amount of the cost for each patient is around 103 Omani Riyal. It's around $267.5 US. Finally, as we know, the complex of the polypharmacy among the Omani geriatric patients, it was really high occurrence among the female gender, mostly in the female gender. And the cardiovascular complications stand as the most prevalent condition. And we have to focus and concern about this issue, which affect and make burden to the healthcare system, and also for the patient and the society also. I want to thank Dr. Sabine Thomas for his support, and also Dr. Ibrahim Zakwani for his support. He is the head of the department, and thank you very much for your listening.